It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce the Pulitzer Prize winning art critic for New York Magazine, Jerry Saltz. And I'd like to introduce him using one of his quotes. All great contemporary artists, schooled or not, are essentially self-taught and are de-skilling like crazy. I don't look for skill in art. Skill has nothing to do with technical proficiency. I'm interested in people who rethink skill, who redefine or reimagine it, an engineer, say, who builds rockets from rocks. I'm looking for what the artist is trying to say and what he or she is actually saying, what the work reveals about society and the timeless conditions of being alive. Jerry Saltz.
Thank you. Hello, Kent Presents. I want to take a few minutes. Can you all hear me? Okay. They were going to put one of those mics that go from your ear to your mouth, but I cannot possibly wear something like that. It's like it's a TED Talk, and I'm against the look, just the look. Anyway, I want to thank Donna Rosen and Ben Rosen for allowing me to come to the University of Rosen. Honest to God, how many years has this been going? 4. I came to the first one, and honestly, I've been at the Aspen one, too, and I like this more, a lot more. And I did the first time, and I think right out of the gate, they got it right, and it's still right, and they created something where something didn't exist before, and you're a soldier, kid. You earned your stripes, okay? This is an all-volunteer army, people. If you don't like the art world, you can leave. It's real simple. Every single person here. How many people would define themselves as loosely, say, involved in the arts? They go to galleries, they work in the arts. This is a disaster for me. A total disaster, because I do hate Donna and Ben Rosen, because I thought I was speaking to all beginners. I got a beginner. Everyone else can leave. And I even told all my good friends, do not come to this. I usually speak for 3 hours, and then I found out a week ago, it's 35 minutes. So, okay. So I'm going to talk about art anyway, as if you know nothing. I know nothing. That's a thrilling place to be, because really, in front of every single work of art you've ever seen, you have never seen it before. For that first second. And that, to me, is an amazing thing that we discount all the time. It's almost like discounting flying. Or, photography. We begin to take that thrill, that otherness, that silence, that new thing, even if it turns out to be crap, for granted. And I don't want you ever to do that. Don't think beforehand you know what is good and bad, because you really don't. You can think of hundreds of songs, artists, things that you didn't like at first, that you then all of a sudden went, whoa. The first time I heard the Talking Heads, I didn't recognize it as music. It's a nightmare for me, but you have to be able to admit that. So, what does art do? What is art? What's it for? Have you ever asked yourself that? What's art for? For beauty, for asking questions. Have you ever looked at Egyptian sarcophagi? Their eyes painted on the side. Why are the eyes there? So you could see out from the inside, because it's dark there. Most of the art you see in Egyptian tombs was not made for human eyes. No, it's made for the afterlife, by the gods of the afterlife. It was never made to be seen by you or me. What about voodoo dolls? What about, what else do I have here? For years, paintings, for centuries, for millennia, paintings were carried into war. Your army would meet over there, mine would be here, and I would go, and then you would bring out your, like, St. Luke, painted by St. Luke himself, and you would do this, and we'd go, we're going to lose. We're definitely going to lose. We do not have the mojo today. Icons, people worship. I'm not religious. I don't want to insult anybody in this room, but I could make the argument that people that worship the gods in the Bible are worshiping great art, great works of fiction, one of the great works of fiction. I make that argument to myself, not to you. People stand around Rothko's chapel. For God's sake, those are just Buddhist televisions, right? There's nothing there. It's this old Jewish guy, bald, who, made floaty squares and fuzzy rectangles, and people go there and go wild. You have. You've cried. How many of you have cried in front of a work of art? What's wrong with us, right? What work of art did you cry in front of? Matisse. With joy. Yeah, anybody else want to give a shot? Yeah? Giorgione, yeah. Who understands that stuff? But it does something to you. I cried at Adele singing Goodbye, or Hello, from the other side. At home. I put it on repeat, and there I was. One of the things almost all works of art are trying to do to you that you see now is, imagine I'm the work of art, and it looks at you across the room and goes, I saw you look at me. I caught you just out of the corner of my eye, looking at me. Come here, come here, come here. Come closer, come very close to me. I could change your life. You love me. I want you. I want you to take me home with you. It's weird stuff. That's what's going on a lot with artists and art. A lot of people complain about art, saying, but I don't understand it. We understand movies, we understand TV, we understand some books, we understand the Kardashians, for God's sake. And we understand money, which has become almost a disease in the art world that has turned everyone cynical, which if I ever get to it in the end, I'll try to talk to that. But art really isn't primarily first about understanding. It's about experience. It's about a bodily confirmation. It's, in the sense like food or music, something that penetrates you, that enters your body, that mixes, as it were, with your thought, your being, all of your experiences. It's a way of knowing. It's a way of knowing yourself. It's a way of thinking. Pablo Picasso said, all art is erotic. Oddly enough, so did Gustav Klimt, and so would a lot of artists, right? You cannot worry about understanding with art. It's really way down on the list because, frankly, I too do not understand it. Is that a triple negative? I look at an all-white painting by Robert Ryman. I may want one, but if you said, do you understand it, I would tell you a lot about it, but I don't think that's the right question. You're already going way down like the wrong track. We don't ask, do you understand Mozart? So when you see art, the first thing to do is stop saying, but I don't understand it, okay? Art's really part of a cosmic force. Uh-oh, he's talking geezer New Age talk. It's not optional, but it's been here since the beginning. We know this. Neanderthal, a species some of you have heard lectures about or talk about, write about, walked around and collected very particular materials, built or fabricated satchels and devices to carry these materials, evidence that they were brought from one place to another and sometimes traded with other groups. You see, stored, having then made tools to fashion these other materials in more than one way. Two tools for the same stone hand axe. Did I say it's art? I did not. I said it was part of a material culture, part of something that was thought about, an operating system, if you will, a way to get the thought and the desire and the need for something that I have, that I imagine, into the material world to maybe do something for me. Also, ochre was found, carried by this dead species to other locations, prepared and applied, okay? That's kind of convincing to me as some sort of intention and not just chipping away at something to make a pointy thing, but it's that too. Art is not optional. It's not just a decorative hedge in front of the citadel of knowledge. I would tell you it's as essential to our being as economics, religion, philosophy, you name it. Yes, it's true. If we can't eat, we can't even think about economics, philosophy, all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that it's been with us since before the beginning. It's never not been here. We think we have about 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of all the so-called cave paintings that were ever made. How many people have ever seen one in the flesh? Life-changing. Instantaneously, you look at, many of them were not in caves. Of course they weren't in caves. They were, the geology changed, where great stones would fall and close these things off and preserve them for tens of thousands of years within 2 degrees. If it changes one time, in all of that time, if it freezes one time, the paint will be frozen and then thaw, and it begins already the long process that it will fall off the wall and it will be gone. Now you see that these caves have to be formed and then they have to open again in order for you to even have access to one. And if you've ever seen a cave painting, you know instantaneously, this isn't some mumbo jumbo of only male artists that go, wah, 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 I'm going to make the spirits eat my, enemy. These are people that looked at mammals for 100,000 years. And they knew everything. They knew when a mammal was in rut, when it was in estrus, whether it was young, old, preparing to fight, getting ready to die. That in those paintings is a little thing that we say we invented in Italy in 1414 called perspective. Excuse me, the Romans had a very close perspective system to ours. The Egyptians have it in their paintings. The Asians have never given a shit about it because to them, they're not into it. It's a bit middle class, if you will, frankly, and that's the way the Greeks, the Romans, and the Egyptians handled the thing that we got so eroticized about going, I'm going into space. All of this is for me. It's going deep, and I am the sole viewer. right? That's pretty thrilling. I like that. No wonder those great painting machines of the 19th century had to be destroyed by Courbet, Manet, Courbet, Van Gogh, up to Cézanne, etc., until it was gone by, you could say Picasso, I could say some, Hilma af Klint. It doesn't matter who, gone. That had to go. We know when we look at cave paintings that we're seeing things that have been seen, that wanted to be recognized. The artist, in other words, has to be able to embed, this is just for you, you're the only person in the room for this, the rest of you have a cigarette. The artist has to be able to embed thought in material. Job one. Have you ever heard of Marcel Duchamp? You. Everybody else, of course they have. Have you? Daniela, get with the program. Now, the urinal that Duchamp designated art, what year was that? Let's all muddle it and say 1950. I think it's 15. It's not the first one. If you want to make me one Duchamp ready-made, by the way, my fave happens to be the shovel, because it's the least aesthetic. There's no way to look at the damn shovel and go, but it's a fabulous object. It isn't. It just hangs there. Anyway, when you look at Duchamp's urinal called Fountain, turned on its side and signed R. Mutt, and then rejected from a big show that was supposedly going to accept everything, so much for Americans throwing themselves open in whatever year that was, 1915 again, let's say. The thought is embedded in that. You understand his intention to change the category, or rather open what is art. How can we change the categories? You have to understand, when people first confronted that, they asked, is this art? When Picasso first made Demoiselles, in two huge, as Kurt Farnadoe put it, opium-fueled campaigns, painted only at night, only by lamplight, in a crapola studio, the guy blasted on opium, but I'm blasted on coffee, so who knows the difference? He showed the painting to a group of people, his friends, in Paris, and asked, is this a good painting? When Pollock first dripped, and he's not Jack the Dripper. He's not like that. He's short. I hate you too. He's bald. He smoked. I used to. Have you ever seen films of Pollock dripping? He's more like this. He's like that. He's not like Richard Serra, trying to smack you in the head. Pollock asked the Duchamp question, not, is this a good painting? He asked, is this a painting? He began to jump the tracks that Warhol, the freight train of American art history, I would argue, actually then took right off after Rauschenberg and Johns, got the train going like this, boing, 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 and Warhol takes it off. But I can talk about that if you give me 3 more hours. But an artist has to be able to embed their thought in material. Too much these days, way too much. How many of you go to contemporary art galleries? Good, you should. I go to about 100 a month. You should never do that. The curators I see in here, and the poor gallerists and the collectors, they're stuck doing it. The artist, here's how artists go to galleries. They go, oh yeah, you run into them, and my wife and I have seen 20, 25 shows a week, and you say to an artist, wow, you're in the galleries. They go, yeah, I met a friend for a drink. We went over to my gallery. They have to see their own dealer and pretend they're not interested first. Anybody come in? Did you show my work? I love them. I love them. You have to love them. They have to believe totally in themselves. And then they go, and then I'm going to have a drink and we're going out to dinner. Where you run into the curators and the gallerists and other people and they go, I can't talk. There's only an hour left. I've got more to see. Anyway, you have to go around, and the idea of embedding thought in material, I want to say this. This is important to me, that too often, these days especially, if you go to museums and too many galleries, the thought is only on the wall label. Now, I am not against wall labels at all, or writing a lot, or telling me what your intention is. Again, I could show you a white painting by Ryman, and we need that. I often forget, oh yeah, why is this art? You know, nothing wrong with that. I was in a great art gallery on 21st Street not long ago, not Larry Gagosian, the Death Star, who we're all going to be working for in the end. No, he's from another planet. If you meet him, he's just as sincere as you. So is the guy you hate, Jeff Koons. Talk to him. He made my friend half bald back there. I love you. No, it's true. If you ever meet Koons, he's totally sincere. He's like a Teletubby or something. Have you ever met him? Or Ronald Reagan, he goes, hi, Jerry, how are you? It's really great to see you. I just feel so fortunate that, Ilona's anus represents the universe. And he slips these things in, and only a few people I know were ever able to kind of negotiate that. But if you know him, he's totally sincere. So is Damien Hirst. So is all the people you are suspicious of. At home, they really mean this stuff. Back to the wall labels. I'm in this gallery. I need an hour and 20 minutes more. I quit. No. The wall labels, I was in a good gallery looking at handsome pictures of clouds, very handsome. And I said to the dealer, I never like to talk to the dealer. I like to look alone. I always say to the dealers when they're yammering at me, I'll tell you who bought this, and Ray Lierzi might be buying this, I think. And sorry, I love you, Ray. You know that. I wanted to use you. Okay. And Artforum is putting it on the cover. I always look at them, and this never works, ever. I always look at them and go, don't talk. I can't hear myself see. I had to say that to James once. And he walked out. James walked out. He now walks out. And that's a good dealer. I mean it, and they all should. And then when I'm about to leave, at least act like you know me and act friendly and go, how are you? Then we can gossip, because that's fun. I have to touch my antenna to your antenna. I want you to be able to do that in galleries. Don't be intimidated. The people working behind the desk are paid $10 an hour. Their laundry is dirty. They owe $1 trillion in debt. Their kids wanting to be art historians and curators and artists, and give them a damn break. They're being watched by cameras. If you try to talk to them, the dealer's like, I'm firing her. I don't blame dealers because the rent is high. So anyway, a dealer came out and started bugging me, and I said to her, him, what's with the clouds? And she said, oh, those clouds are, the photographer went to Ferguson, Missouri, and took pictures in Ferguson. And I lost it. I really did. I just went, those clouds are not in Ferguson, Missouri. Those clouds are not about Black Lives Matter. Those clouds are not about the social revolution that has to take place in this country. Those clouds, the thought has not been embedded in the material. Do you follow me? That's job one. I need you to understand that. The difference between subject matter and content. Very briefly, I want to get into this. When you see a portrait of a pope by Francis Bacon, what's the subject matter? Easy question. What's the subject matter, Donna Rosen? The Pope. Bing! I like to have, but not always, subject matter be the first thing I see and be the first thing I stop looking at. Now let me ask you one of the more metaphysical but important things to know about art when you're on your own in museums and galleries, professionals and newcomers alike. That's the subject matter. The subject matter of Michelangelo's David, Imagine Me Naked, don't. Standing like this, doing this. Oh, shut up. The subject matter is a young man, and here's the content. How old is the man? 15. He has pubic hair. So is that, I hate children. Did the children, are they mature by then? I hate you too. Yes, I do. I'm godfather to lots of them, and I give them so much money, you can't believe it. One content is he's just 17, if you know what I mean. Okay, but I want to do Francis Bacon. I've got to do something a little bit more accessible because we only have 5 minutes. Thanks, Rhode University. And very simply, tell me some of the content inside of that exploding pope. Eruption. Corruption. Boom. Corruption of what? The church. That's in that goddamn idiot exploding pope. Tell me what else is in the exploding pope. Anybody?
Sex and death.
Sex and death. There's a big one. Let's just do death. How is death in it?
Deterioration.
He's deteriorating. He's already a monstrosity, flying apart, as it were. Anybody else want to go into the depths of art?
Spiritual disarray.
Spiritual disarray. In what sense? Because of the distortion? Good. Anybody else?
Shame and disappearing.
Shame. That's nice. The guy is in a box, right? His genitals are kind of gone. His hat's very featured in his hands. Flesh. Anything else? And it goes on and on and on. Wallace Stevens once wrote, and this you have to understand about art. I don't want you to read Wallace Stevens. He's my second favorite poet, but he's too hard. He's a pain in the ass. He's so abstract. He's my second fave. I never understand him, but I adore it. He once wrote, 22 people crossing a bridge into a village are 22 people crossing 22 bridges into 22 villages. Nod when you understand what that's about. There's a couple going, yeah? It means that the village you walked into is different than the one you walked into. The way you got there, while the same, is different. It's the way that when you see Hamlet with her, she sees a different Hamlet than you. And what's so great about really great art, and a lot of contemporary art can do this, is that every time you see Hamlet, it's different. Some of the most idiotic paintings that I adore. Look at one of those Giorgio Morandis. It's just 4 bottles, for God's sake. Every time I look at them, they're different. And even while I'm looking at them, they're popping around on me. I go, wait a minute, did the edge for that just get in front of or in back of that other edge? Where'd the background go? Oh, there it is. That's what I want you to do in galleries. Look at how it's made. A. Look at its content, not its subject matter. Good intentions don't make good art necessarily. I have too many young students that go, they show me a black painting and I go, I love monochrome. Could you make me one? And then they'll go, I took this to the Red Sea and I bleached it in the Red Sea. And it's about the breach between the Gaza and Israel. And then what I always do with those people is what I've been doing. And they're grateful afterwards, though I get beat the crap out of on social media. Please follow me at Jerry Saltz. If you want to take a selfie with me later, post it and I'll show you some art love. And I tell them before we do some questions, if you have any, if I haven't ruined this, it is not about the breach between Gaza and Israel. It is about your lack of originality. It is about I'm sorry. You are concerned, and so am I, and I'm Jewish, and I hate the Israelis. All Jews do. No. Sorry, the Americans do. Just kidding. Anyway. It's not in your work. You're using conventions, the convention of the monochrome, the convention of the material, the convention of the scale, the convention of now your process, the convention of the color, the convention of the surface. Do you see it? That is the content of the work. I want to say one last quote before I ask you some questions. You noticed, right? Now, I just want to give you 2 quotes. First, Oscar Wilde. You got to read a couple of those essays by Oscar Wilde. Which one is it, The Artist is Critic or The Critic is Artist? What? They're both the same or something. Don't worry about the first 10 pages, then just go bonkers. He's a quote machine. But in it he says, well, all bad poetry is sincere. So that's the first thing about a lot of art with great intentions. The other thing is by the great artist Jasper Johns, one of a kind somehow, who said, and I might get this wrong, I've read this in 50 versions, and this is for young artists, okay? You listen to this. Avoid everything you can avoid. Then do what you can't avoid doing. Do what is helpless and unavoidable. You understand the surrender involved in all this, people? How deep you have to go. How you have to find your own voice. That is all I'm looking for. That is all, even if your voice is dumb. I never went to school. Mine isn't so smart. I got to live with that. That's my damn content. My assholiness, I can't get rid of it. Sorry, sir. He went like that. Find your own voice. Speak in it. Don't be afraid to fail flamboyantly. Don't be a big baby. You're going to be poor most of your life. I can't help it. If you want to marry for money, do it. It's good. There's nothing wrong with that if you are your art first. We're sociopaths in our world, right? I don't care about anything except my work. I pretend I care about you. No, don't listen to this part. And work. As Proust said, there are absolutely no excuses in art. I'm sorry if you're poor. You didn't go to the right school. You don't know how to schmooze. You don't know art history. I didn't either. I went to no school. I was a stupid, the only Jewish, long-distance truck driver in America. I'm not lying. What a nightmare that was for them out there. Who's that? Oh, it's me. You want to talk about Carl Andre's late work? All right. I wish I could go on. I'm glad I'm not. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions. Thank you. All right, if you have it, you can leave and I won't ruin your career. I saw one hand on over there and then right back. Yes, sir. And keep it a question. If you make a statement, I'm going to get medieval on your ass. I love you.
You asked a rabbinical/Socratic question at the beginning. I'm going to ask you to answer your own question.
What is art for?
Yes.
Art contains multitudes.
One word.
Multitudes. It's for healing. It's for casting spells. It's for crying. It's for healing pain, as what's his name famously said is what Vermeer is used for. Vermeer is not simply beautiful. That's only our latest iteration of what art is for. You tell me if Goya's Saturn devouring his children is fucking beautiful. Beethoven is not originally beautiful. A nightmare. A nightmare. And yet it had to be heard after the world of the whole revolution exploded the entire known world and shook it back to uncertainty. That's why you have to move on from Mozart. Art is hardwired for newness. So are we. Otherwise, you wouldn't ever have to look at a thing after a Raphael Madonna. It would have been kind of solved. Oh, we know what beauty is, and then you make it to Vermeer, and we're done here. I don't know what art is for, but I know I've used it for millions of things. It's that good of an invention, and it will disappear when every use we can imagine for it has been addressed successfully. Next.
Who are the young artists that you like or think
Here's
we
what
should
you can
look at?
do. Who are the young artists?
The very young artists.
Look, I'm now 67. I used to go to like 200 or 300 studio visits a year. You young artists used to give me the flu. I got bronchitis. They've been up all night. They touch you. It's disgusting. You look at their computer, the porn is still on. It's ridiculous, but I had to stop going to studio visits because I can't afford it as an art critic. Incidentally, I'm at the top of the, I've got a big, what's the job? A top spot in the corporation, in the art machine, and I got to work 24/7. So I don't really know a lot about young art, except I go to galleries. Follow me on Instagram. Every night I do these ridiculous things now where I go, good night from, and I show artists that I think are not good, not bad, but finding their own voice. And a voice that by consensus might start addressing needs, our moment. You must be an artist of your own time. You must stay up every night, my vampire loves artists, every night with other artists, every night, scientists, every night with other scientists, every night with other physicists if you're a physicist, every night. There are no excuses or you die. You'll start eating rats. Okay? You've got to feed on the blood of your time, and that time will feed you. Any other questions? Very quickly. I have two more. One, and then two, and we cut. Quick.
Your first favorite poet.
My first favorite poet, I'm afraid, Walt Whitman. Read the first, I always say, read the first 75 pages of Walt Whitman, merging with everything in the universe, and then put him down, because he'll suck you in, and you'll want to shoot him after a certain point. Who's your favorite? And then we go to the last question.
Shakespeare.
You know, I've never been able to read Shakespeare. I can hear Shakespeare. I'm at home reading him going, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And you sometimes look at Rembrandt and think to yourself, it's a little brown. It's a little shiny. So I'm not the only loser here. But then I put my cynicism and skepticism aside for a second and I look. Last question from Liam, an artist. Where do you live, Liam?
I'm from New Milford, Connecticut, which is about 30 minutes south.
And are you going to art school?
I'm currently a rising senior at New Milford High School, but I run my own photography business and I'm excited to continue with that and graphic design.
They talk fast, these kids. All the older people are going, what did he say? Right? You should see me in schools now. I just go, I don't know what I'm agreeing to. And what's your question, Liam? You have good artist name. You want to say your last name?
Liam Lacey.
Lacey is good. Liam Lacey. Ray Learsy, Liam Lacey. Okay, Liam, this is your shot with an art critic. What do you want to know?
If there's anything specifically, what are you most excited about currently in today's contemporary art world?
Honestly, I think there's lots and lots and lots of newer galleries that against all odds, against the highest rents in the world, that are finding ways. Art is not dying. Stop being an undertaker, for fuck's sake. The art world's like painting is dead, the novel is dead, the photograph is dead. Things aren't dying, okay? That'll take care of itself when it's gone. What I will say to you is there are more people making more art than have ever made it in the history of the world. Ever. And if you look, if you build it, they will come to your gallery. At first, it will only be 10 or 20 people, and it will be enough. Don't forget the great Sex Pistols story. 25 people went to their first concert, 24 started a band. The other one killed himself. So, if you build it, I may not come, but I will smell you in the distance. All right, thank you. You can take a selfie with me out there.